Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Sunday video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the market, talking about trade setups and things ahead for this week. This week coming up is a very busy one. So I did want to go through some of the different charts that I will be watching, as well as some of the big news that could be market moving for some of these major currency pairs, as well as the gold market and potentially even the stock market S&P. So let's get right into this. Before I do go any further, please do remember, if you enjoy my content, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and leave a like on these videos if you want to see more of these Sunday specials. I do this every week, put it together, take some time to research. So if you would like the video, it does mean a lot. So let's go ahead and get into today's content. I'm going to pull up really quick Forex Factory just to show you guys this. Just to show you what is on the radar. So this week we've got a bunch of different stuff, a lot of red folders here. Some of the big ones that stick out to me, of course, are going to be Aussie CPI numbers, which could be, it's a measure of inflation, so it could be market moving there for the Aussie crosses, which we have seen a lot of downside for recently. So we'll have to see if that continues this week or if we get some form of a reversal there. We've also got CPI numbers coming out for Canada, which is, like I said, it's a measure of inflation. So that could be very market moving for the Canadian currency as well, and all the different CAD crosses. Now, the big one for the week, this is probably the most anticipated move or event for the week and has potential to move the markets quite a bit. That's going to be your FOMC statements. This is where the Fed meets and talks about monetary policy, any signs of hawkishness or dovishness or bullishness, bearishness, whatever you want to say about the U.S. monetary policy could lead all the U.S. dollar crosses to really move. And that includes things like gold, etc. Okay, and then finally, we do have GDP coming out for the U.S., which is a huge, important detail as well. Part of the reason that the dollar has been strengthening so much recently, we're going to get into that in a moment, has been this growing anticipation of fast recovery and GDP growth compared to some of the other places in the world. And then finally, we have GDP also for Canada on Friday, and then we have the PCE price index. I almost said price action index. That would be cool, but that's not what it is. So a couple different market moving events there for you to keep an eye on. Feel free to go check that out on Forex Factory anytime you'd like. I figured we could start with the US dollar. This is the DXY. This is the US dollar currency index, to kind of see where we are starting out for this week going in. First thing I want to say is that we have been sort of testing the waters here at a high of the year level. Okay, so a lot of anticipation here is to the upside for the dollar. A lot of bullishness as we come back into this place. Like I mentioned, GDP growth is up, and monetary policy is sort of anticipated to continue to have that hawkish outlook that we started to see back in June. So again, the Fed had talked about raising rates at some point, and now we're sort of waiting to hear if there's anything to be said about tapering or something to combat inflation, which also could potentially move the dollar higher. The dollar has been really interesting recently. Like I said, we've had high inflations and concerns, and a little bit of dovish, speaking from Jerome Powell. So the dollar is sort of at an interesting spot. From a price action perspective, though, you are at a major area of resistance. You can already see that price tagged up into this zone and found a little bit of sell pressure here this week. So we started out really strong for the week and then pulled back there towards the end, sort of consolidating on Friday. So where do I see the dollar going? Well, I think that the dollar probably will make a stab to try and make a higher high for the year. I do think it is possible that we could get above this 93.5 zone. I think it is very possible that we could put in a higher high with the dollar overall. Again, something around tapering, if that becomes more of a conversation, we could see the dollar make a next stab higher at levels like you've got 94.1, you've got just a little bit above that, you've got 94.5, let's say, right? So you've got a couple levels of resistance should this level start to break out, where we could see price sort of jump to, right? Could see a move right up to 94 and maybe even up to 94.5. So that's where I'm watching for the dollar right now. I am overall still bullish on this thing, but before I take any more aggressive longs on the dollar, I would like to start seeing this thing start to break out of that high of the year, show us some demand. So let's go take a look at some of the individual crosses. We'll take a look first at EURUSD. So One thing to note about the euro dollar here on the daily chart is that price action has really slowed down, really started to consolidate here on the euro. So what I will say about that is that when you have this sort of tightening of price action like this and you have this low volatility, we can also take a look really quick at the ATR. This is the average true range. It tells you what the average daily move of this currency pair is. You can see that back here in June, we were looking at 70 pips a day. And now we're seeing coming down to a low for a while at just 58 pips or so a day, which is quite a smaller move per day. So we're seeing price consolidate. Well, what does that tell us? Well, it may mean that around the corner, there could be some expansion of volatility yet again. This is kind of something that we see happen a lot in markets. You see volatility come down for a very long time and then spike, come down, and maybe we have a spike around the corner for the euro dollar. But again, you do usually see volatility move in some form of a wave as well. Higher volatility coming in when you have fresh catalysts that could be really market moving. We saw this expand when the Fed had mentioned raising rates, right? We saw a really big increase in dollar strength, which caused volatility to spike. So I am waiting to see how this level responds, similar to the DXY. Can we get fresh lows in the Euro USD, which may attract fresh sellers to come in here and push this thing lower? I would, as a sell bias individual, I would really like to see the euro dollar show some expansion of volatility. That also means, price action heading lower, breaking under that 1.17 would be huge, and looking for consolidation to look to sort of join that trend, if you will. On the flip side, I think that if things don't get very volatile, I think for the time being, we're probably just going to stay where we are with the euro dollar, right? Ranging back and forth, maybe a little bit of upside there. But like I mentioned, the more interesting component to me would be a follow through with this lower high that we saw on the higher time frames. I would love to see this thing start to break underneath in order for me to look for that further downside short selling opportunity. So again, looking at the lower time frames, take a look at the 4-hour chart, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about with this really dried up volatility. So we saw lots of movements down here, major sell-off, retracement, follow through, right? Retracements. Now we're starting to just see those still happening, but on a much smaller scale, right? The difference in price action here is very different than here. So I am waiting to see with the euro dollar if we can get a move lower. That would depend heavily on probably the monetary policy statements that come out this week on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. Next, we'll take a look at the pound dollar. I am short bias on this one. I actually have a short position open that I shared inside of the group. By the way, I forgot to mention it, but if you're not already inside of our group, we are actually doing a 25% off sale. You can see it right here on the screen. So with the 25% off of our Discord, you get access to all the trade alerts. So if I take a trade, you will see it. Like I mentioned, I'm short on the pound dollar. So you can see the trades that I'm taking, as well as a couple other analysts inside of our team that share their trades. You get access to our live trading chat rooms where people are hanging out, talking and interacting, talking about trade ideas and setups and strategies. We also do a weekly in-depth research, piece that is sent out to members each week by our team. We do live coaching webinars, strategy, and then we also have a strategy and software library for our members to check out. So if you have any interest in joining us, like I mentioned, now's your chance to get 25% off of that group that we offer on Discord. There is more information if you are interested down below in the description. It's the first link there to sign up on our site and use that promo code, like I said, to get 25% off your membership. So check it out. So I think with the pound dollar, I mentioned I am short on this pair. Let me see if I can pull this up just so you can see what it looks like. I've also got an SPX trade that's going really well. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. So the pound dollar here, I ended up going short at resistance here after basically the Bank of England has been fairly dovish recently, whereas we've seen a lot of hawkishness overall for the US dollar. A little bit less recently, and that's where I'm kind of taking smaller positions on some of my dollar trades, but I am still looking for dollar upside. So I do have that pound dollar short open currently at resistance. You can see the trade was pretty clean, ended up jumping in there on the short side. And now just looking to see if I can get some follow through with that. Additionally, I think that should things, if anything picks up with the Delta variant. Not saying I want that to happen, but I think that it is a potential market concern. And if that does pick up, I would imagine that pound dollar would shoot much lower. Okay. And that is just because of the nature of the pound versus the dollar. You're talking about a higher risk currency, that is the pound, versus the more stable, established US dollar, right? And so with that said, if that sort of concern continues to rise, you have a situation where pound dollar could run much lower, right? And then I mentioned also, I've been in this one SPX trade. I have been trailing my stop on this thing. It has been an absolute monster. Let me just show you that really quick. So this is a trade that I called out to members. I basically said that I was going long right around here. And this thing has just been a runaway train. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's been one of my best trades recently. I bought this thing on the dip, took a trade, put my stop underneath structure, and it just has run ever since. I've trailed stops multiple times and sent those alerts out to members. So if you caught some of that SPX action, then congrats to you. Shout out to the fellow dip buyers out there. That thing was just, it was just a picture perfect trade. So I ended up going long there, have been riding on that one since then. So pretty happy with how that trade is happening. And like I said, congrats if you are also in on that action. I called that one out. Let me see. When did I first take that trade? I'm going to pull it up just because I'm curious. Okay. Yeah. So I took the trade initially. Very small position on SPX on the 38.2% retracement and looking at that support zone. So I ended up going long there on the retest of that support structure. And then, yeah, so I called it out. And then since then, I've just been trailing stops on this thing as it just continues to run higher. And my goal is to try and stay in it as long as possible. Just with any of my winners, I try and let my winners run as much as possible. So like I said, shout out to anybody who caught that trade as well. And we've now actually broken through the highs, which is kind of a cool thing. You've seen a fresh high on the SPX. So I would love to see if that thing can hold and continue higher. If it does, then great. We'll continue to trail stops. If it doesn't, we'll take a nice profit there anyways. So in a good spot with that one. But anyways, with what I would say with pound dollar, like I said, I think we do have potential downside here on the pound dollar, especially if you see Delta variant scares sort of continue to pick up, which we will have to see how that plays out. But like I mentioned, I do like this thing for the short side for a couple of different reasons. But yeah, I've been trading this one inside of the group and catching some nice moves so far. We'll see if it wants to follow through. Next up is going to be dollar yen. Dollar yen had a really great week last week, rebounding a lot of its losses there off of the low. We did come in here at 109.4 and found some real strong buyers. On this candle, you can see we basically faked out to the bottom side and just found very strong rallying happening now. I do think that with the dollar yen, we have potential to do something like this: break out higher, continue retest, break out higher, and maybe head up to that target there at 111.6. That is my thoughts on the dollar yen. I am bullish on this currency. Now, I will say the one hidden variable here with the Delta variant is that in the case that the Delta variant becomes a scarier situation, I would imagine that you actually see this thing sell off more. Notice that during this period of time, that was where we had some concerns around, markets growing. You also had the Delta variant becoming a more concerning thing for markets, especially in places like Australia, which have been experiencing lockdowns, et cetera. We've seen that the yen strengthens quite substantially during that situation. And so if Delta variant happens again, if we get bigger concerns around that, if that doesn't get pushed to the side, then you could see some more volatility there on the dollar yen. So I would caution on that. If I was trading this thing personally, I'd keep my stops pretty tight just because, you never know when that news can come back into play. And then all of a sudden you're talking about a big sell-off on the dollar yen. So just keep that in mind if you are watching it. But overall, I've been bullish on this thing, and I still am bullish on the dollar yen. I'm not a big fan of buying the yen at this time. Their monetary policy is pretty dovish, especially compared to other places, which seem to be sort of outpacing in recovery. So I do like the idea for long sides on the dollar yen. I would love to see it break higher here and maybe show some signs like this. But like I mentioned, just keeping tabs on that Delta variant situation, because I probably wouldn't want to be, super long on this thing just as Delta variant stuff gets scary. So just some thoughts there for you with the dollar yen. Next up is going to take a look at gold, XAUUSD here. And I wanted to show you guys what happened last week in the COT reports. So check this out. I'm going to head over to the website. You guys can use this anytime you want. By the way, this is my website, a1trading.com. If you head over to a1trading.com and you go to COT data and you scroll down here to gold, I'm just going to show you guys what I've got here to show you. So the non-commercials is what I'm interested in. That's like your hedge funds and institutional traders. Notice this. This is really interesting. That's the third consecutive week that we have seen an increase in buying pressure on the gold market. Very, very interesting little component there. You notice that there is, for a third week in a row, an increase in positions held on the long side for the gold market. Notice that now that we look at gold, you can still see that gold is, yes, it has risen a little bit, but it truly looks to me like more of a buy now that we know that institutional traders seem to be piling in on gold. That's a really positive little catalyst there. So to me, gold is interesting as a potential breakout. Should we see a move above 1830? I love the idea of looking at long side trades. I may even take some myself should we start to pick up there. Like I mentioned, if I do take any trades, you guys will see them inside of the Discord. And like I mentioned, if you're not in the Discord, that sale 25% off is ending soon. So grab that if you would like. But yeah, so if I trade gold, you guys will see that inside the Discord for those of you who are there. I do like this on the long side. Would love to see it break out. Would love to see some of that price action, show that demand follow through. But again, increase in positions look like a positive catalyst there for the gold market. And, you know, it does seem like we have put in that bottom back in July, or I guess still in this month, but early July. We've seen some nice bullishness there off the bottom of gold. So maybe we have a higher low here and maybe we can start to see a breakout. I would love to see price, you know, from a longer term perspective. I would love to see price get bullish above resistance here at 1900, right? We came up to that point and we found a lot of sell pressure. So I'd love to see this thing start to make its way back above before I get like truly long-term bullish. But there may be some trades, just like I said, with that increase in COT data, making some promising, you know, signs in terms of institutional traders getting in on the gold action. That could be interesting to watch. I would like to just, while we're talking about it, what does the dollar look like with the COT report? And again, you guys can feel free to go look at any specific currency you would like on our website. Just head over to a1trading.com and then navigate to the COT report data page. So yeah, look at that. The dollar continues to be a place where institutional traders are piling into. So very interesting. We're seeing an increase in gold. And we're seeing an increase in the dollar as well. So kind of an interesting thing to be thinking about. So like I said, I am long biased on the dollar and would love to be a buyer of gold should we start to see that breakout kind of materialize there on the gold market. So a couple things to consider there. What else do we have? I did mention the S&P 500, but let me do it from an analysis perspective. So I do think that, you know, this thing does look a bit stretched and I'm not, you know, I probably wouldn't be buying it up here, but you know, that dip that happened early last week and even the week before was just a beautiful buying opportunity for the bulls out there. I mean, risk on sentiment still seems to be in play. You can see this trend line was just picture perfect. Frank and I, we thought about just taking a picture of this and printing it out and put it on the wall. That's how clean it was. We both caught the long side action inside of the group there. So pretty happy with it and looking for more potential upside. We'll take a look now at the US 30 as well. This is another US index, which has been performing quite well. You know, a lot of times people are quick to say, well, hey, it's been up, it's kind of come down now. But the thing about these things is that they tend to go up over time, especially when you're in an environment like this, where you're seeing a lot of recovery and optimism continuing to, you know, sort of materialize there in markets. So we're seeing that in price action of these US indices, which actually tend to be doing a lot better than some of the other stock markets out there. Take a look right now at NK225. This is the Nikkei. This is a Japanese stock market. You can see still doing okay, but not nearly as performing as the US indices. You can see nowhere near that high that we put in February for the Japanese stock market. So in fact, if you had bought the high, you're still looking around a 9% drawdown from the top. So not a very different story than our US indices right now, which tend to be doing very well. Will that continue? Will that end? That's sort of going to be something we have to continue to watch. I don't know. I wish I knew beforehand. We could all just short at the perfect high and buy at the perfect low. But as I say on my channel quite often, I am not a magician. I'm not a crystal ball owner. I am a trader. And as a trader, our goal is not to know with certainty what's going to happen next. Our goal is to take trades and take investments that, our risk is limited, where our upside is potentially much, much greater. So that is what I'm looking at with some of these markets. You could watch the Nikkei if you see some form of a breakout. Remember also that this has a lot of correlation or inverse correlation to the yen. A lot of times we do see the yen strengthening on the Japanese stock market, rallying lower or dropping, right? And then vice versa. When the stock market here in Japan is rising, a lot of times you do see some yen weakness come back into play. So keep an eye on that for some of the yen crosses. With that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. Like I said a couple different times already, if you're not already in our Discord, get that 25% off sale. Whenever I have these, I try and make sure that people are aware of them so that you don't miss out, because it will be limited time. So check it out. All access to our Discord that I've talked about quite a lot in this video, as well as a lot of our videos, because I've met so many great traders from our community. And so, I'm always looking for more people to join us and help us support what we do there. We've got a whole team of people that make that community possible, whole staff in Atlanta here, working really hard to make it the best community for Forex traders. So get your access now, 25% off down below in the description. Thanks so much for being here, and have a great trading week. Trade safe, and we'll see you back in the next video.